Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Man, I'm stoked to see you. So I had somebody leave a comment down in an earlier video and asking if we could discuss for a few minutes of how to live without regrets. And so I think this is a really good day, and I think it's certainly a really good time to talk about this with all of our recent events, and then I'm sure everything that just happens in our day-to-day walk in ourselves, with our family, and in our communities. And this is something I was talking with, because I think that in the military, I have to deal with so intentionally all of those people who are in my charge. So at any point in time, like right now, I have 139 dudes in my charge. Now, in a year from now, I'm probably going to have 139, and it's going to fluctuate between 135 and 145 between gains and losses. But everybody is coming and going, right? So about every 12 to 18, 24 months, just call it 18 months, that number, the who makes up that number is going to completely rotate on its end, if that makes sense. So in the past, couple of years, I've had probably 330, 340 dudes in my charge. And then multiply that over 20 years. It's a lot of folks. And in the military, we have to lead with being very intentional in our leadership style and in our approach. So it's not enough to say that I don't know something about those who are in my charge. Man, you have to know. You have to be engaged. And so when somebody's celebrating something fantastic, like a marriage, the birth of a child, where somebody comes from, their family. When they're dealing with something low, like maybe a child is diagnosed with cancer. Maybe they lose a sibling, a mother, a father, a sister who raised them. We're there for those moments of celebration, and we're there for those moments where there are no words. And I was sharing this with my small group at church and talking about our church, saying that, man, I know that we are a community and a group of believers, but listen to me, friend. If anybody thinks that out of our congregation, which is probably around 500, maybe more, that people aren't dealing with the exact same things, the addictions, the anxiety, the celebrations, the depression, then we're fooling ourselves. Just because we're in this community doesn't mean that we've lost the human dimension within ourselves. Like, we still deal with the exact same things. And so how we live, this life without regrets, I think ultimately comes down to approaching it in two ways, or talking about it in two ways. And one is dealing with how we did something, in the past. And the other one is, how do we live in the present, preparing for the future? Does that make sense, friends? Now, before we go any further, man, I really want to challenge and encourage you to leave some comments down below about how you do these two things. Maybe it's a lesson learned from the past that you've learned to get over with, or maybe it's something that you do on a day-to-day basis, so that in 5, 10, 20 years from now, you're not looking back saying, I wish I would have. I can promise you somebody needs to hear from you. And so let's go in talking about the present, if we can. Quite frankly, the present is a lot easier to deal with, and I think this is where everybody really sinks their teeth into. It's where we talk and hang out the most, at least in my experience, because most people don't know how to deal with the past, and I think that'll come to light here. So when we're talking about living in the present, I think we have to talk about our values, the virtues, our beliefs. We have to know what it is that we identify ourselves as. The why of who I am, of who I am. Why is that? Because this why has to come first, and it has to propel us into the future. And I don't think near enough of us spend enough time thinking about the values that we hold dearest and what we want to live by. Because once we do, then we live with some self-awareness of introspection, of shaping our life and our decisions with those values. For example, if I say that I value my family, but every single day, 24/7, I'm addicted to pornography, as an example, then I'm not living with integrity to my value of putting family first. And certainly not my wife, right? Now, that doesn't mean that people don't go through hard times, and we'll deal with that talking about looking in the past. But in the present, man, we have to be a little bit harder with ourselves. I used to have an old saying of the dudes who had a ramrod down their back, and they wouldn't bend their values for a particular situation because it was the easy thing to do. I think that's how we have to try to live. Because when we do that and then we get into the future, we can look back and say, I did things right. Now, that doesn't mean that even in those moments of living without that, we may not do the exact same thing that we need to deal with the past. And that's, I want to get into that when we start talking about the past. We need to find a pathway in front of us that we can walk down and know with each step that it's taking us to where we want to go. I say this to my dudes all the time, because I don't ever give a standard safety briefing of what not to do, right? Don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs. Don't hit your dog. Don't hit your wife. Don't eat yellow snow. All these don'ts. I don't tell my dudes what not to do. I tell them what to do, right? I say, do the things that you love to do. Do the things that you want to do that's going to take you to the future. Remember the goals that you have, those short-term goals that you have for yourself and for your family, or for the family that you want to build. And when you are away from here, do the things that's going to take you one step closer. Have fun. Live and be present. Be there for your friends and for your family. It's a little bit of a ethos change, I guess, if you will. It's a different dynamic to trust my people and know that they will demonstrate themselves to be trustworthy. It's just part of my leadership philosophy, and it's how I try to carry myself on a day-to-day basis. But when we do these things, right, we have our goals, right? You want to retire, you want to have kids, you want a new car, you want a boat, you want a house, you want to give back to your community, you want to raise kids who will have a positive impact on yourself, themselves, and their community around them, right? You want to deepen your faith. You want to be more involved with your community. Whatever it is, right? Whether it's leaning back towards yourself so that you can give back out, or whether it's you can give back out so that it comes back and gives honor to the things that are important to you. We all have this pathway, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning. Very few people wake up in the morning and they want to go to work and fail. Like, nobody wants to get fired. Nobody wants to have their pay taken away from them. So when we're dealing with other people, I think we have to remember this. And it's not the easiest thing to do, because no matter what decision that we make of how to live in the present, we're going to look back and say, I wish I would have. Now I know dudes like this in the military, like, man, I wish I would have gone to Ranger School. I wish I would have gone to SF. I wish I would have become an officer. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And sometimes I have this key in mind, and other times I don't. And I think what we have to have is some empathy. First off, we have to know and be there with our people. Be present. We need to not be joy thieves, and we need to not try to one up. We need to not downplay what somebody's going through if it's honest and it's sincere. We just need to listen. We need to encourage and motivate. We need to know when we talk about, and this deals with past, present, and future, that we need to redefine what success and value is in life. Because too many times, right, this is how society plays it, man. It's, if you don't win the Super Bowl, you're a loser. If you're not the champion, you lost the game. If you don't have fame, you had no significance. If you don't do X, Y, and Z, your life had no meaning. Now, we sell this thing on the big picture like that, and we also sell it on the small things, the day-to-day things, right? If you don't have the right shoes, if you don't have the right haircut, if you don't read the right books, if you didn't go to school, if you didn't go to the right school, if you didn't marry, if you don't have kids, we put all these things on us that we use to shape identity, to make this box. And it's all wrong. You see, we take, because it's easy to do, right? We take a way of dealing with the present and we apply it to the past. And that can be very dangerous ground to walk on. So, when we're looking at the past, and we're having some empathy, we need to know and understand that we have to redefine what meaning is and what success is. We have to learn to be present in the moment, even in the past, to know that we couldn't have been where we are without enduring those hardships, which means ultimately things twist on a dime, and it's a paradox, right? That low is actually my high because it is what got me to this point in time so that I can have this vantage and this view. Now you can't force this on somebody who's dealing with something like some severe anxiety or depression. Right? Does that make sense? Because now we're going to completely disregard what they're going through. But we have to remember this ourselves on a day-to-day basis in the present, right? When we're going through something hard and difficult, we need to just keep moving and not be stagnant. And trust in the journey. Be present and accept and admit that it's okay to make mistakes. Man, listen to me. Maybe it's on a serious issue, like I want to say serious, like a seriously moral issue for a lot of people. Maybe it's divorce or abortion, and somebody went through something in the past. That past moment and that past event doesn't have to define who you are, and it doesn't have to define who the people around you are. Maybe it was failing out of school. Maybe it was being kicked out of the military. Maybe it was the loss of a job. That doesn't have to define who we are. So long as it's not where we stay. Because when we become stagnant, friends, that's when things go to hell in our life. And we actually bring hell on earth when we do things like that. And when we don't go to those dark places with our friends and to be present with them, to take them hand in hand, and sometimes maybe even on our back and carry them out, we extend hell's borders. So listen, friends, live intentionally on a day-to-day basis. Align and know what your values are, and align your walk, each step, with them. Along the way, you may hurt some people doing so. You may hurt some people when you drift away from it. You may look back and say, I wish I would have. But know that it's okay to make mistakes. Know that it's okay for others to have made mistakes. Live with forgiveness in your heart. Forgive yourself and forgive others. And in so doing, you are loving yourself and loving others. And in all things, man, give honor and glory to what is most important. Hope you enjoyed the content of this. If you did, consider sharing this with somebody else that may need to be brought into the conversation. We will keep this conversation rolling. Look forward to it, my friends. Leave some comments down below. Until then, you stay stoked.